Dorje jaje dele narada amarmanda umbarun jidengo gari somde zaya la meja soyu lama yidum chusonla sorwa nimso da yujin ye lo dagu ji jaje lo soto shenye mendo ji konjumba sirgin lumbo dagu jibe go yage jewo jawa kuja tse dedu luru tonda marmenza mawo jamba tada shenjadu unji dani nyamiran jembe dedu sumbo jawa kuja Sambaning Jitani Cheres, Dola Mother Saga Tromang. Ingrijato Java Dorjija, Bending Garchi Javla so Susani Kimo. Nasum Jugu was on the Zala Majala Guzaza, doesn't go Roma Chula. Nelu Dawaja were a Jinja. Dr. Masan Japan, Chuson Lower Chinja Labus, Chunam Lower Chinja Labus. Namjula Silver Chinjala Dozo, Juba Yisojawa Chinjala Dozo. 那首先呢，我就这个顶礼传承祖师。
Firstly, I prostrated to the lineage masters and all of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And especially to His Eminence Garchen Rinpoche. And so through the prostration, we hope to receive the blessings from them and would be able to attain their level of enlightenment. So we hope to receive such blessings. Today, I'd like to firstly express my thanks to all of you present here, as well as my respect to you. Because today, what I'm doing here is not a teaching or teaching the Dharma. What I'm doing today is we are all the disciples of His Eminence Garchen Rinpoche, and so we are all learning together. This is an opportunity for all of us to learn together, and therefore I'm very honored to have this opportunity to learn together with everyone. I'm not able to talk much about very profound teachings, but what I have would be some of my experiences, and I can share that with all of you. So if you're able to benefit from that, that is, you can refer to what I talked about, and should I say anything that is wrong or things that you might not agree with, then you don't have to let it bother you. Today, I had wanted to speak in Tibetan, but if we're to do that, then there'll be the translation into Chinese and then into English. Then through these different layers of translations, we would not have enough time. Therefore, today I'll speak directly in Mandarin. And as you know, my Mandarin is quite limited. My ability in speaking Mandarin is quite limited. So some of my pronunciation may not be very accurate. So when it's not accurate, or when I mispronounce some things, there will be instances like these. And it's been a long time since I've spoken Mandarin, so there'll be many words that I don't remember. So sometimes in that moment, I wouldn't be able to recall the word. And also because of my age, my memory is very bad. So there will be times whereby I will not be able to recall certain words. So I do hope that you will forgive me when that happens. Now today, firstly, I will follow the liturgy. So this is the Guru Sadhana, or the Guru Yoga. In Vajrayana Buddhism, Guru Yoga is a special term. So this is calling the Guru. It is a practice to connect with the Guru. To better understand this, we're actually learning from the Guru. That is what it means by Guru Yoga. That is, we are learning from the Guru. We are relying on or learning from the Guru's body, speech, and mind. So we've got to learn from these three. And in the end, we would become the same as the Guru, achieve the same level of achievement as the Guru. So that is the meaning of Guru Yoga. So today, firstly, all of the practice that we're doing today is because of different causes and conditions coming together. We need to have all of these different conditions together before we can do this practice together. So in Guru Yoga, the main goal is, the most important goal is to learn the Guru's bodhicitta and his wisdom of emptiness. That is the main goal of the Guru Yoga practice. Jigten Sumgun had said, in one of his teachings, he had said, all of my teachings, if you're to sum it up, it is really 1, absolute bodhicitta, and 2, relative bodhicitta. So for anyone who learns bodhicitta, both of the bodhicittas, then they would be my disciple and I will be their guru. Those who don't learn bodhicitta, then they are not my disciple and I'm not their guru. So in Jigten Sumgun's teaching, he makes it very clear. So today, we are also learning Garchen Rinpoche's infinite bodhicitta and also his wisdom and emptiness. If we're able to absorb that in our mind stream, then that is really the whole practice of Guru Yoga. So when we're reciting the lines in a sadhana, that is a skillful method. So in Vajrayana, it is a skillful means. It teaches from different perspectives or different ways in order to help us purify our negativities, accumulate merit, and increase our wisdom. So there are many different methods for us to do that. So the sadhana is really a method. Today in the sadhana, it begins with saying that we've got to sit on a comfortable cushion. And that is also one of the causes, the beginning cause, because when we want to start meditating, if you sit on an uncomfortable cushion, then you'd have backache, your legs would ache, etc. And you wouldn't be able to sit. Therefore, you need to sit on a comfortable cushion. That is one of the conditions. So the different conditions are all interdependent on one another. So if a cushion is empty, it is pointless. You need to have a meditator sitting on the cushion. And when the meditator is sitting on the cushion, the posture needs to be in a meditation posture. So it's not that he can sit any way he likes. He's got to sit properly. And a proper posture is, like we all know, that is the 7-point posture of Vairochana. So your hands are together, and then your back is straight, chest is open. So the chin is tucked in, eyes are level, the tip of the tongue touches the upper palate. So these are the requirements of the body. So because we are training our mind right now, that is, we've got to rely on our mind. So when we're alive, the body and the mind are inseparable. That is why the body can affect the mind, especially in the prajna, the nadi, and all of the different types of consciousness within the prajna, the nadi. And all of these are the causes. That is why, at the start, we've got to ensure that we meet with the physical posture requirements. Then it says here, with a mind of renunciation, take refuge and give rise to bodhicitta. This is also very important. So this is written in the Sadhana, but this is something that is important for every single person who is doing mind training. Jigten Sungkun had mentioned that the preliminary practices are even more important than the main practice. So the preliminary practices are very important. In preliminary practices, we have 4. The first is the precious human life. Second is impermanence. And then the third and the fourth would be the karma and its effects, and also the fourth would be the faults of samsara. So today in our practice, we also have got to contemplate on these four thoughts. And especially Jigten Sungkun's in his Gongji, he's also mentioned in Gongji that in mind training, whatever mind training practice we do, it needs to have the complete graduated paths. Once the paths are complete, then based on causes and conditions, the interdependence of causes and conditions, then we will be able to achieve the results of our mind training. So when we contemplate on the 4 thoughts, on precious human life and all that, a lot of teachings have already talked a lot about it. However, when we're contemplating on these, firstly, we've got to think, today, this human life that we have, what can we do with it? So we can think that with this human life, we have the opportunity, the ability to attain the enlightenment, the fruit of enlightenment. So like Milarepa, for instance, he attained enlightenment within one lifetime. So he relied on that, his one human life, to attain enlightenment. So when we contemplate on the first thought, the main thing is we've got to recognize the value of our human life. Once you've fully recognized or clearly recognized the value of this human life, then we can think about how we can make use of this precious human life. In the past, the great masters have mentioned that this precious human life is, if we do good with this human life, then it is like a boat that can help take us across and achieve liberation. So take us across a river. And if we do negative deeds, then it will take us down to hell. So we've got to fully recognize, truly recognize the value of this human life, and to make full use, make good use of this precious human life. Do good rather than bad. I think this is the key point of the contemplation of the precious human life. The second thought is to contemplate on impermanence. At every moment in our lives, within time and space, anywhere we are, everything is ever changing. Impermanence is manifesting itself all the time. For instance, during this pandemic, we can see every day the manifestation of impermanence. So contemplating on impermanence can motivate us in our practice. So the whole point of contemplating impermanence is that first we have this human life, and then the time that we have with this human life is limited because of impermanence. So usually we might procrastinate. We might think, oh, today I don't feel like practicing. Maybe tomorrow I'll practice. And we keep procrastinating day after day. And in the end, we don't practice at all. And right before our death, then we start feeling lots of regret. And so it's really pointless. So we've got to contemplate on impermanence. We've got to recognize how limited our time here is. We cannot waste our time at all. So once you've contemplated on impermanence, then what is it that we've got to really practice? We've got to practice the karma and its results. This is extremely important. If we don't understand karma and its results, and we don't respect this law of karma, then there's nothing to practice. So firstly, we've got to understand karma and its results. It is extremely important. So I'll talk a little bit about Jetsun Milarepa, about what his life experiences can teach us. Jetsun Milarepa's disciples had asked him to share about his life story. Some of his disciples said, "Oh, Jetsun, you've already attained Buddhahood. You're a Buddha in this human realm. You're no ordinary being, for sure." So when the disciples said that, Milarepa replied and said that, "I am no Buddha. I don't know much." And the Jetsun said that, "If you see me as a Buddha, that is an expression of your respect for me, and that is okay. But if you think in this way, from the perspective of dharma, that's actually a lack of respect or a wrong view." So what the Jetsun said was, because other people had said that the level of commitment to his practice is not something that ordinary people can do. And so the Jetsun said that in the beginning, I've actually created a lot of negative karma because I've cursed and caused the deaths of many people. So it is through the sadness and the regret that I have towards my negative deeds. It is that pain that made me truly 100% realize and understand karma and its results. If I didn't know that, then in my next lifetime, for sure, I will fall into the hell realm. So it is from that kind of determination that allowed me to persevere in my practice. So Jetsu Milarepa said that he believed fully in karma and its results. And it is because of that that gave him the strength to continue to persevere in his practice and attain Buddhahood. And be able to attain Buddhahood in a single lifetime. So in what Milarepa said, the most important point is usually it is easy for us to understand karma and its results, the interdependence of causes and conditions. But even though it is easy for us to see it, and yet we don't believe it, then what goes beyond it will be even harder for us to understand. So after what Milarepa said, then a lot of his disciples worked harder in their practice. So the contemplation of karma and its results is very important. Next is for us to contemplate on the faults of samsara or the suffering of samsara. We don't need to say much about this. It isn't something that's really hard to understand. Everyone knows very clearly. Let's not talk about what we cannot see about the suffering in the hungry ghost realm or the hell realm or the other realms, those that we cannot see. Let's not talk about that. Within this realm that we are in, we have personally experienced and seen and touched and felt. We're able to experience the deep sadness and suffering in our human realm. The sutras are divided into 3 types of suffering. So that's the suffering of suffering. Suffering of suffering is suffering on top of suffering. That we already know. So the economy is already not that good, and then we have the problem with the pandemic. So that's suffering on top of suffering. So that's easy for us to see and understand. As for the suffering of change, our physical body, the 5 skandhas, the 5 aggregates, it can be good today and not so good tomorrow. So it keeps changing. And as for all pervasive suffering, what it is it mainly talks about all kinds of dharma that is the result of cause and condition. They will arise, then they will cease. So there's life or birth, and there is death. So we have the suffering of birth and death. And it continues over and over again, and that is all-pervasive suffering. So these 4 common preliminary practices, when we're practicing Guru Yoga, we've got to firstly understand, contemplate these 4 thoughts. That will be very helpful for our practice. And from there, then we can rouse renunciation. What renunciation is that for most of us, we might think that when people talk about renunciation, so a person who renounces things is one who sees everything as extremely cruel, and it's a very pessimistic kind of perspective. And so with that kind of pain in one's heart, then people think that that is renunciation. I think that is completely not the case. Renunciation is the wisdom that arises within problems and challenges, and that is the hope to be free, the hope to be enlightened. And that is the accurate way of thinking of renunciation. So usually for me, I'd also think in this way. So renunciation is like we are imprisoned in a dark prison, and we can see nothing. There's no light. We can see nothing outside. But sometimes a person might dig a small hole using a stone, and then through that hole I can see light. The person can see light. And what he can see is he saw mountains, water, trees, flowers, all kinds of beautiful scenery he can see through that small hole. And at that moment, he thinks in his mind, right now I'm sitting in darkness, but outside there is this whole new world, and that is so much joy there. So that's that feeling or the motivation to want to get out. Because we know the suffering of samsara, and we want to be liberated. We want to attain that happiness. That's when we rouse renunciation. So we rouse renunciation is based on that reason. It is not merely thinking of suffering, and then renunciation rouses. It's not like that. It is the hope to seek liberation. That is renunciation. So once you have roused renunciation, then you'll be seeking the path for enlightenment. And that is why we've got to take refuge in the three jewels. So that is how renunciation is roused or appears or is developed. So what is the meaning of refuge? Based on my understanding, so it is a person who gives me guidance on the path. A good analogy is in the realms of samsara, there are all kinds of afflictions, and we're all very sick. So we want to be cured of our sickness. So what must we do? We've got to seek a doctor. So normal doctors cannot help us. Why? Because we are very seriously sick. So we need to seek a doctor who is highly skilled and extremely sincere. And he's extremely compassionate. So we've got to look for a doctor like that. Only then would we be able to seek help from the doctor and be cured of our disease. So the Buddha is like a good doctor. Now, since the doctor is highly skilled, that doesn't mean that our sickness will be cured. Because the main cause for us to be cured is either taking the medication that the doctor has prescribed, or perhaps having to undergo some kind of surgery. only then can we be cured of our sickness. And so this is equivalent to the Dharma teachings. So the Dharma is the cure that helps us get better or cure us from our sickness. For instance, the doctor might have very good medication, but if the patient does not take the medication at all, the illness cannot be cured. So the patient needs to take the medication, and only then can the sickness be cured. So when we think of the three jewels, then this is the Dharma jewel. So we are very sick and we're unable to cure ourselves. So we have someone who can help us. So somebody who supports us because we're so sick, we cannot, for instance, stand straight. So we have somebody there to support us. And in an analogy, it is like the Sangha jewel. So they have practiced before us. They have been following the Buddha and learned. And so they are there to help us, to support us in our practice. So today, what I've described would be the methods of practicing the common preliminary practices to help us rouse renunciation. So that's what I think, and I've shared what I think about these. Tomorrow, we will begin with refuge and bodhicitta. So we will learn together. So today the time is almost up. In some places it will be very late, so I really thank all of you for being here.